Forget everything you think you know about human history. The comfortable lie you've been fed that we are civilization's crowning achievement is about to be annihilated. Because beneath centuries of carefully constructed academic dogma lies the undeniable screaming truth. We were not the first. Prepare for irrefutable evidence, long suppressed and strategically overlooked, that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt advanced civilizations thrived eons before our supposed dawn. This isn't just history, this is the unmasking of humanity's biggest secret, and it will fundamentally rewire how you see the world forever. If these colossal ancient remains are not mere anomalies, if they are what the evidence actually suggests, then our entire historical narrative, our very understanding of human ingenuity, technological progress, and our place in the cosmic timeline collapses into a pile of convenient fiction. This isn't just a minor adjustment to a textbook. This is a radical, uncomfortable reevaluation of everything we've been told about humanity's journey. The true cost of ignoring this isn't just intellectual dishonesty, it's remaining blind to the true cyclical nature of civilizations, unaware of the potential for rise and catastrophic fall that has played out on this planet before. Are you ready to confront a past that demands you rewrite your future? Because once you see it, there's no going back. All right, let's address the elephant in the room, the comfortable, neatly packaged version of human history they've sold us. It's the one you learned in school, plastered across documentaries, and cemented in every museum exhibit. The story of a linear, upward march from primitive to complex, culminating conveniently with us. This isn't just a simplified narrative, it's a strategically curated one, designed to fit neatly into a timeline that, upon closer inspection, is riddled with gaping holes. It's a narrative so deeply ingrained that questioning it feels almost heretical. But make no mistake, this official story is far more convenient than it is comprehensive. And its very convenience is its greatest flaw, setting the stage for the groundbreaking truths we're about to expose. The narrative begins roughly 300,000 years ago, with the emergence of anatomically modern humans in Africa. For the vast majority of this immense span, almost 97% of it, our ancestors are depicted as nomadic hunter-gatherers. Think about that. Nearly 300 millennia of scratching out an existence, chasing wild game, foraging for berries, living in small, egalitarian bands with no permanent settlements, no grand structures, and, most critically for the official record, no writing. Their daily lives were a relentless cycle of survival, leaving behind scant, fragmented traces for future archaeologists to piece together. We're told this period, the Paleolithic and Mesolithic eras, was defined by rudimentary tool use, slow cultural development, and a fundamental inability to organize on any scale that would leave a lasting architectural footprint. They were simply too busy surviving to build monuments or cities. This is the bedrock of the conventional timeline, painting a picture of humanity as fundamentally limited for an almost incomprehensible duration. Then, around 12,000 years ago, as the last ice age receded and the climate warmed, a pivotal shift supposedly occurred: the Neolithic Revolution. This is where the story truly begins to accelerate, according to the official version. Suddenly, humans, tired of chasing their food, discovered agriculture. They began planting crops, domesticating animals, and for the first time settling down. This revolutionary change is credited with everything: permanent villages, a surplus of food, population growth, the division of labor, social stratification, and ultimately the conditions necessary for civilization to blossom. The Fertile Crescent, particularly Mesopotamia, is championed as the undisputed birthplace of this agricultural revolution, a singular point of origin from which all subsequent complexity flowed. This narrative paints a picture of a species suddenly shedding its primitive skin, transforming rapidly from wild hunter to settled farmer, entirely on its own terms, following a natural, inevitable progression. And what did this agricultural breakthrough supposedly lead to? The grand unveiling of the first true civilizations. Around 6,000 years ago, the narrative tells us cities like Uruk in Mesopotamia or Jericho in the Levant burst onto the scene. These weren't just villages, they were complex urban centers, bustling hubs of trade, governance, and organized religion. They featured monumental architecture, temples reaching for the sky, formidable defensive walls, and intricate irrigation systems. Crucially, it was during this period, around 3400 BC in Sumer, that the earliest known system of writing emerged, cuneiform. This invention is paramount to the official story, as it marks the definitive end of prehistory and the beginning of recorded history. Suddenly, humans could document their laws, their rulers, their stories, their very existence. This, we are told, is when humanity truly began its ascent, when the light of organized society pierced the darkness of the primitive past. But here's where the narrative starts to crumble, where its inherent limitations become glaringly obvious. When you step back and look at the sheer scale of modern human existence, 300,000 years, and then consider that everything we officially call civilization, everything with cities, writing, and grand monuments, only accounts for the last 6,000 years, you realize something profound. That's a mere 2% of our existence. 2%. Almost all the knowledge we possess about ourselves, preserved in clay tablets, ancient scrolls, and historical texts, comes from this incredibly brief, recent flicker in time. The vast, unfathomable gulf of 294,000 years remains, largely unspoken for, dismissed as an era of simple survival, and no traces left behind. This massive void in our accepted history isn't just an inconvenience, it's a critical weakness. Because archaeology, the very science tasked with uncovering this past, is inherently limited by what survives. Organic materials, wood, textiles, even many metals, decay. Cities built near ancient coastlines are now swallowed by oceans that rose hundreds of feet after the last ice age. Natural disasters, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and dramatic climate shifts have repeatedly scoured and reshaped the planet's surface, obliterating countless clues. We are relying on the most fortunate, the most durable, the most accidental remnants to tell a story spanning hundreds of millennia. This means our official picture of the past is built from scattered, often misleading fragments, like trying to reconstruct an entire library from a handful of scorched pages. The convenient narrative ignores the implications of this immense missing data. It maintains that if significant civilizations existed before 6,000 years ago, we would have found them. It dismisses anomalies as isolated incidents or misinterpretations. It insists that the slow, gradual evolution of human society is the only logical path, stubbornly adhering to a model that can no longer account for the mounting, undeniable evidence that directly contradicts it. This isn't just about academic precision, it's about control of the narrative. It's easier to maintain a simple, linear story that fits neatly into existing theories than to confront the unsettling possibility that we are not the first, that our accomplishments are merely a retread of what others achieved eons ago. But this flawed foundation, this convenient dismissal of everything beyond the last 6,000 years, is precisely what makes the true discoveries we're about to reveal so devastatingly powerful. Prepare to see how the official timeline is not just incomplete, but actively misleading, hiding a lost past that will force you to rethink everything. Now let's dissect the first pillar of this fabricated historical edifice, the official origin story. For hundreds of thousands of years, an almost incomprehensible stretch of time, we are told that anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens just like you and me, roamed the earth as nomadic hunter-gatherers. Picture it, vast, untamed landscapes, small bands of people constantly on the move, chasing migrations, foraging for fleeting sustenance. Their lives, according to this narrative, were a relentless, day-to-day struggle for survival. Their minds, we are implicitly taught, were solely occupied with the primal instincts of food, shelter, and procreation. Any grand aspirations, any complex social structures, any sophisticated understanding of their world beyond immediate utility are categorically dismissed. This isn't just a part of the timeline, it's a conditioning period designed to lower your expectations for what ancient humanity was capable of. This depiction of our distant ancestors is critical to the official narrative's integrity. They were, we are assured, primitive. The term itself carries a heavy weight, suggesting a lack of intellectual capacity, organizational skills, or the foresight required for anything beyond the immediate hunt or gather. They supposedly possessed only rudimentary tools: chipped stones, sharpened sticks, basic animal hides for warmth. There were no permanent settlements, no grand monuments, no intricate art beyond simple cave paintings, often explained away as mere expressions of daily life. And most critically, no writing. This absence of written records is, conveniently, the primary justification for labeling this entire 294,000-year span as prehistory, implicitly declaring it devoid of anything truly significant or complex, anything that could challenge the notion of our own unique brilliance. It's a vast, empty canvas waiting for our story to begin. The sheer scale of this primitive era is staggering. If human history were a 24-hour clock, recorded history would occupy less than the last 5 minutes. The remaining 23 hours and 55 minutes? According to the prevailing dogma, it was a period of slow, almost stagnant development. Imagine for a moment that your own family history, stretching back 300,000 years, had 97% of its story erased, dismissed as inconsequential. Would you accept that? Yet, this is precisely what we are asked to believe about the collective journey of our species. The official story meticulously emphasizes the harsh realities of nomadic life, the constant threat of starvation, the vulnerability to predators, the relentless grind of basic survival. This framing serves a clear purpose: to underscore how utterly incapable these people were of building anything substantial, anything that could possibly hint at a previous great civilization. Their lives were too simple, too precarious, too focused on the immediate. This has to be true, or the entire edifice of modern historical understanding crumbles. And then, the miracle occurred: the Neolithic Revolution, approximately 12,000 years ago. This is where the light supposedly dawns, where humanity supposedly pulls itself up by its bootstraps. The climate warmed, the ice sheets retreated, and suddenly, almost as if by divine intervention, humans discovered agriculture. This wasn't a gradual, localized adaptation, as the nuanced truth suggests. In the official narrative, it's presented as a transformative, singular event, primarily originating in the Fertile Crescent. The narrative implies a sudden eureka moment where humans, tired of their arduous nomadic existence, simply decided to plant seeds and domesticate animals. This narrative conveniently overlooks the thousands of years of trial and error, the deep botanical knowledge, and the specific environmental conditions that would have been necessary for such a profound shift. It's presented as a breakthrough, not an evolution, neatly packaging a complex transition into a digestible, easy-to-teach chapter. This discovery of agriculture is then crowned as the sole catalyst for all subsequent human progress. Permanent settlements, thanks to agriculture. Population growth, agriculture. Division of labor, surplus food from agriculture. Social hierarchy, managing agricultural surpluses. Specialized crafts, monumental architecture, organized religion, and yes, ultimately writing, all direct, inevitable consequences of agriculture. The very definition of civilization becomes inextricably linked to this agricultural revolution. If a society didn't farm, if it didn't build permanent settlements, which, by the way, decay, then it simply wasn't civilized. This narrow definition, rooted in the preservation bias of archaeological evidence and a linear view of progress, conveniently excludes any possibility of alternative forms of complex societies that might have existed before the plow. The sole catalyst narrative is crucial because it creates an artificial barrier. It implicitly states nothing truly significant could have happened before this point. Any evidence that contradicts this, any anomalous structure, any advanced artifact found in strata older than 12,000 years, must be either an isolated fluke, misinterpreted, or outright dismissed. It allows the mainstream to maintain control of the historical timeline, to keep the lid on any disruptive discoveries that might suggest a different, more complex, and frankly, more humbling truth about our past. This narrative is not about discovering the whole truth. It's about maintaining a comfortable, manageable version of it, one where humanity's ascent begins precisely when we started writing it down. This systematic downplaying of pre-Neolithic human capabilities serves to bolster the illusion that we are the first, the apex of innovation. It establishes a baseline of primitiveness that makes the sudden appearance of cities and writing seem all the more miraculous and unprecedented. It primes the audience to accept that everything before Mesopotamia was a slow, stumbling march in the dark, effectively erasing any potential for earlier, more sophisticated cultures. But the cracks in this convenient facade are growing, and the subsequent evidence we're about to examine will expose just how fragile and ultimately how misleading this official origin story truly is. Get ready to see the narrative utterly deconstructed, revealing the vast, vibrant, and forgotten chapters of history it desperately tries to keep hidden. And then, after hundreds of thousands of years of supposed hunter-gatherer stagnation, something utterly miraculous happened. The sudden explosion of what we're told are the first true civilizations. This is the moment history textbooks love to parade, the grand unveiling of organized society, the moment humanity supposedly woke up. Around 6,000 years ago, a mere blink in the eye of human existence, the narrative shifts dramatically from scattered bands to sprawling metropolises, from rudimentary tools to monumental architecture, from grunts and gestures to the intricate precision of written language. This abrupt leap, primarily centered in Mesopotamia and later Egypt, is presented as the singular, unparalleled genesis of everything we consider civilized. But don't be fooled by the academic fanfare. The very suddenness of this explosion is the first glaring red flag. Consider Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, as it's so often dubbed. In Sumer, particularly in cities like Uruk by 3000 BCE, we're shown the rapid emergence of all the hallmarks, cities with populations reaching into the tens of thousands, monumental temple complexes like the ziggurats, sophisticated irrigation systems requiring complex engineering and organized labor, intricate social hierarchies with kings, priests, and a burgeoning merchant class. This wasn't just a collection of mud huts. These were fully formed, highly structured urban centers, complete with administrative bureaucracies, legal codes, and the very first known system of writing, cuneiform. This wedge-shaped script, initially used for accounting and administration, quickly evolved into a powerful tool for recording myths, laws, and history, forever demarcating the boundary between prehistory and history. The implication is clear. Before this, nothing of comparable complexity existed. They want you to believe this was a blank slate, a truly unprecedented dawn. Then, almost in parallel, we have ancient Egypt, flourishing along the Nile. Just a few centuries after Mesopotamia, Egypt coalesced into a unified kingdom around 3100 BCE, giving rise to its own spectacular monuments. The pyramids, built with an engineering prowess that still confounds modern methods. A unique hieroglyphic writing system emerged. Complex religious beliefs solidified, and a highly centralized political structure took hold under the pharaohs. The speed with which these societies seemingly transitioned from primitive to pyramid building is breathtaking, almost suspiciously so. The official story attributes this rapid ascent to the preceding agricultural revolution, portraying it as a natural, inevitable progression. But ask yourself, can such an intricate, multifaceted leap in societal complexity truly occur in such a short span, almost ex nihilo without any significant preceding foundation? The problem is that the narrative forces a false dichotomy, either hunter-gatherer simplicity for 294,000 years, or sudden, fully formed complexity around 6,000 years ago. There's no room for intermediate stages of advanced, non-agrarian societies, no allowance for sophisticated cultures that didn't leave behind durable stone records or cuneiform tablets. Why? because the very definition of civilization used by mainstream archaeology is inherently biased towards what survives and what fits their preconceived linear progression. If it doesn't have writing, permanent cities, made of stone preferably, and a centralized state, it's not civilized. This is a circular argument designed to reinforce the current timeline, not to genuinely explore the true scope of human history. Consider the implied rate of progress. For nearly 300,000 years, humanity barely moves the needle, seemingly content with stone tools and nomadic foraging. Then, in a geological heartbeat, roughly 200 generations, a mere 6,000 years, we suddenly master agriculture, build cities, invent writing, develop complex metallurgy, create intricate legal systems, and erect structures that defy the imagination. This isn't a slow, steady climb, it's a vertical launch, an intellectual and technological singularity that feels less like organic evolution and more like a pre-scripted event. The official story glosses over the fundamental unanswered questions. Where did the organizational capacity come from? How did the knowledge for such monumental construction simply appear? What about the preceding millennia that should have shown a more gradual buildup of these capabilities? The narrative demands you accept this sudden explosion at face value without probing the uncomfortable implications of its abruptness. Furthermore, the focus on Mesopotamia and Egypt, while undeniably cradles of recorded civilization, implicitly dismisses the possibility of other advanced cultures developing independently or even earlier in regions less conducive to archaeological preservation. What about coastal areas now underwater? What about societies built with biodegradable materials? What about knowledge systems passed down orally or through perishable mediums? The sudden explosion narrative conveniently frames the start of civilization around the areas where durable evidence could survive and where writing emerged, effectively ignoring the vast majority of the planet and the overwhelming majority of human history. It's a selective spotlight designed to illuminate only what fits the established script, leaving the rest in profound, convenient darkness. This selective emphasis creates a profound historical amnesia. It makes us believe that our current technological and societal advancements were unprecedented, that we are the peak of a singular, continuous line of progress. It dismisses any notion of a prior peak, a previous great awakening, or even a past cataclysm that could have reset humanity's clock. This is not scientific rigor. This is narrative control. The very abruptness, the sudden explosion of civilization, is not a testament to human genius appearing on cue. It is, in fact, the most damning evidence that something came before, something significant, something that was erased, leaving behind only the most resilient fragments that now scream for recognition. The next sections will expose these fragments, revealing the true hidden history that this convenient narrative desperately tries to suppress. Prepare to see the truth. Now let's tear down the next pillar of the fabricated historical narrative, the one that insists on a linear, upward march from primitive to civilized. Because what we're about to show you utterly annihilates the notion that complex societies only emerge with agriculture. We're going to the desolate, windswept plains of southeastern Turkey, to a site that has sent shockwaves through the entire archaeological world, Göbekli Tepe. This isn't just an archaeological find, it's a historical hand grenade, detonating every comfortable assumption about our origins. For decades, the academic establishment confidently asserted that only after humans settled down, began farming, and amassed food surpluses could they possibly develop the social organization, labor, and cognitive capacity to build large-scale, monumental structures. This was the gospel, the unquestioned truth. Then, Göbekli Tepe was unearthed, and with it, the entire timeline of human capability was not just rewritten, but brutally shattered. Dated to nearly 12,000 years ago, that's 6,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt, and thousands of years before the supposed birth of Sumerian cities, Göbekli Tepe stands as a defiant, colossal monument to a truth they desperately want to keep buried. What is Göbekli Tepe? It's not a city, not a settlement, but a massive, purpose-built, ceremonial complex carved into bedrock, consisting of enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, some towering over 16 feet high and weighing up to 20 tons. These aren't crude, haphazard arrangements. They are meticulously carved, precisely aligned structures arranged in sophisticated circular patterns. The sheer engineering feat required to quarry, transport, and erect these multi-ton monoliths, not just once, but repeatedly across multiple enclosures, is mind-boggling. And here's the critical, paradigm-shifting detail. The people who built this were, by all conventional accounts, hunter-gatherers. Nomadic groups, supposedly too focused on basic survival to engage in such mind-bogglingly complex, collaborative, and resource-intensive projects. This is where the official narrative collapses into dust. The carvings on these monumental pillars are equally stunning and defy the primitive label. We see intricate, vibrant depictions of animals, snakes, scorpions, vultures, foxes, wild boars, rendered with an artistic sophistication and anatomical accuracy that is utterly uncharacteristic of any known primitive culture of that era. Some pillars even feature mysterious anthropomorphic figures, subtly suggesting human-like forms without explicit faces. What did these symbols mean? What narratives did they convey? Mainstream archaeology struggles to explain them, clinging to vague interpretations of religious symbolism. But the sheer artistic mastery and the complex recurring iconography speak of a deeply symbolic, highly organized culture with a rich cosmology that predates any known formal religion. This wasn't simple art, this was communication, a profound expression of a worldview far more developed than previously imagined. Beyond the art, there's the precision. Many of the stone circles at Göbekli Tepe are believed to align with specific celestial events, suggesting an advanced understanding of astronomy, a level of cosmic observation that we associate with much later, civilized societies. This isn't a coincidence. It's a deliberate, calculated integration of architectural design with astronomical knowledge. How did primitive hunter-gatherers, supposedly lacking permanent settlements or advanced tools, acquire such sophisticated astronomical understanding? This challenges the very notion that astronomical observation and its application in monumental building only emerged with settled agricultural societies. It points to a deep, inherited knowledge, or perhaps a rapidly accelerating intellectual development that the official timeline refuses to acknowledge. And perhaps the most unsettling mystery, the one that truly unravels the established narrative, is Göbekli Tepe's deliberate burial. Around 10,000 years ago, after centuries of use, the entire complex was intentionally covered with soil and debris. This wasn't a natural disaster. It was a colossal, organized undertaking, requiring an immense amount of coordinated labor. Why would a society supposedly on the cusp of agriculture decide to painstakingly bury their most sacred and monumental achievement? Was it to protect it? To honor it? Or was it to conceal it? To literally bury a past that was too dangerous or too advanced for future generations to comprehend? The silence from academia on this specific act of burial is deafening, because it fits no conventional archaeological explanation. It's an act of profound, intentional erasure that hints at a story far more complex than a simple evolution. Göbekli Tepe isn't an anomaly. It's a testament to a previously unknown, highly organized, and intellectually sophisticated culture that existed in the pre-pottery Neolithic period, before the advent of widespread agriculture. It proves that monumental architecture, complex social organization, advanced symbolism, and astronomical knowledge predate the conditions that mainstream history insists were necessary for their emergence. It shatters the myth of slow, linear progress and instead forces us to confront a terrifying possibility: that humanity reached a pinnacle of development in the deep past, only to fall back, its achievements buried by time, and perhaps deliberately by design. This isn't just about hunter-gatherers building temples. It's about hunter-gatherers demonstrating a level of societal complexity that demands a complete reevaluation of humanity's true capabilities and its true history. Let's zoom in on the specific moment the official timeline began to fracture. the unearthing of Göbekli Tepe. While the site was initially noted in a brief survey in the 1960s, its true shattering significance was completely missed. Researchers at the time, operating under the rigid dogma of the established historical narrative, dismissed the strange limestone blocks protruding from the belly hill, as Göbekli Tepe translates, as nothing more than an ancient medieval cemetery. This initial dismissal is crucial, as it highlights the inherent blindness that can occur when evidence refuses to fit a pre-existing framework. For over 3 decades, the site sat untouched, its world-altering secrets patiently waiting beneath the Turkish soil, ignored by an academic world convinced it already knew the full story. Then in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived. Unlike his predecessors, Schmidt approached the site without the same restrictive biases. What he and his team began to uncover in 1995 wasn't a cemetery, nor was it a simple settlement. It was something far more profound, something that defied every single assumption about the origins of human civilization. Monumental, intricate stone structures buried for millennia. These were massive T-shaped pillars, some reaching incredible heights of 18 feet and weighing as much as 20 tons, arranged in sophisticated circular enclosures. The precision of the carvings, the deliberate alignments, the sheer scale of the construction effort, it was undeniable. This was not the work of rudimentary, scattered bands. This was the work of an organized, capable, and highly sophisticated society. The truly devastating blow to the established timeline came with the dating. Radiocarbon dating on organic materials found within the fills and structures of Göbekli Tepe revealed an astonishing truth. The earliest layers of this complex date back to the pre-pottery Neolithic A (PPNA) period, specifically between 9500 and 9000 BCE. Let that sink in. We are talking about structures built 11,500 to 12,000 years ago. To put that into stark, undeniable perspective, this site is a staggering 6,000 years older than the Egyptian pyramids. Imagine trying to dismiss the Great Pyramid of Giza as merely a primitive structure. That's the equivalent of what the academic world was doing to Göbekli Tepe's builders. It predates the supposed birthplace of civilization in Sumer, cities like Uruk and Jericho, by thousands of years. The very notion of an agricultural revolution being the sole prerequisite for complex building and societal organization is utterly annihilated by Göbekli Tepe's existence. This monumental complex was constructed by people who, according to mainstream archaeology, were still firmly in the hunter-gatherer stage. They were supposedly nomadic, lacking the sedentary lifestyle, agricultural surpluses, and hierarchical social structures deemed essential for such grand projects. Göbekli Tepe is the definitive, irrefutable proof that this assumption was and remains completely false. The initial reaction from the academic community was a mixture of disbelief and frantic reevaluation. Klaus Schmidt, the visionary archaeologist who dedicated his life to this site, understood its profound implications. He argued that Göbekli Tepe wasn't built after the advent of agriculture, but rather that its very construction, the need for large numbers of people to congregate, collaborate, and sustain themselves during such massive building efforts, might have actually driven the development of agriculture and permanent settlements. This flips the entire conventional narrative on its head. Instead of agriculture leading to civilization, Göbekli Tepe suggests that monumental ritualistic projects might have been the catalyst for sedentarism and farming. The dating of Göbekli Tepe wasn't a fluke. It was corroborated by multiple analyses, pushing back the timeline for organized human activity by an astonishing margin. This site is not an outlier to be conveniently ignored. It is the ultimate, undeniable evidence that the story we've been told about our past is incomplete, sanitized, and deeply misleading. Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, stone giant, mocking the narrow confines of established history and screaming the truth. Humanity achieved incredible feats of engineering, artistry, and social cohesion thousands of years before the textbooks say it was possible. This isn't just a site that rewrote history, it's a site that proves how much history they were deliberately ignoring. Now let's dissect the very core of Göbekli Tepe's defiance. Its mind-bending complexity, from the sheer engineering audacity to the profound artistic expression and even an apparent grasp of the cosmos. This isn't merely a collection of old rocks. It's a meticulously crafted statement, screaming that the primitive hunter-gatherer label is nothing short of a scientific fraud. First, consider the engineering. We're talking about T-shaped pillars of solid limestone, some standing over 18 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. Imagine trying to extract these colossal blocks from their quarry using nothing but crude stone tools. This wasn't a simple hack-and-chip operation. It demanded an understanding of geology, rock cleavage, and precision. One wrong strike, one unforeseen fissure, and the entire block would be useless. Yet, the builders of Göbekli Tepe consistently quarried these massive monoliths with astonishing success, demonstrating a mastery of material that borders on the inexplicable for their supposed technological level. There is no evidence of metal tools, no iron, no bronze, only the implied use of harder stone implements for percussion and abrasion. This alone should raise red flags for anyone clinging to the primitive label. But extraction is only the first step. Next came transportation. How do you move a 20-ton stone across uneven terrain, uphill, without the wheel, without draft animals, without any documented advanced lifting mechanisms? The distance from the quarry to the construction site, while not vast by modern standards, would have been an insurmountable challenge for unorganized small bands of nomads. This task demands hundreds, if not thousands, of coordinated individuals, applying brute force in unison, likely employing complex systems of ropes, rollers, and sledges, none of which have left clear archaeological traces from that period. It necessitates sustained effort over weeks or months, a logistical nightmare for a transient population. This wasn't a spontaneous gathering. This was a meticulously planned, long-term project demanding hierarchical leadership and a disciplined, dedicated workforce. And then, the ultimate act of engineering, erection, and precise placement. These multi-ton pillars weren't just dumped. They were carefully raised and then slotted into intricately carved sockets in the bedrock. The level of precision required to balance these top-heavy monoliths and secure them vertically is staggering. Any miscalculation, any wobble, and a collapse would have been catastrophic, potentially killing dozens. Yet, they did it repeatedly across multiple circular enclosures. This points to an understanding of physics, leverage, and structural stability that far exceeds what is attributed to societies of the pre-pottery Neolithic. It implies a specialized knowledge base, passed down through generations, or perhaps rapidly innovated, that allowed them to tackle construction challenges that would stump many modern engineers without heavy machinery. This wasn't primitive trial and error, it was calculated, audacious design. But the engineering marvels are just one layer of this complex puzzle. The artistry and symbolism etched onto these T-shaped pillars utterly demolish the notion of simple, subsistence-focused minds. These aren't crude stick figures or basic geometric patterns. We see intricate, three-dimensional reliefs of a vast bestiary: snarling wild boars, coiled snakes, predatory vultures with wings outstretched, graceful gazelles, powerful foxes, and even spiders and ducks. These animals are depicted with a startling realism, a dynamic energy, and an anatomical accuracy that speaks of keen observation and incredible artistic skill. This level of detail and lifelike representation is completely uncharacteristic of what we're told early hunter-gatherers were capable of. It's the product of master sculptors, implying a system of apprenticeship, a dedication to craft, and a specialization of labor that defies the simplistic, everyone does everything model of early societies. Even more intriguing are the subtle, anthropomorphic features on some of the pillars. Some T-shapes are subtly sculpted to suggest human arms hanging down the sides, sometimes with hands, even belt-like carvings with buckles. This transformation of a megalith into a symbolic, stylized human form is a profound artistic and conceptual leap. It suggests a sophisticated understanding of abstract representation and identity, hinting at a complex belief system where deities or ancestors might have been embodied within these stone sentinels. The discovery of the Urfa man, a life-size statue found nearby and dated to a similar period, further reinforces the idea of early, sophisticated human figural representation, directly challenging the narrative of slow artistic development. The meaning behind this rich iconography is still fiercely debated by mainstream academics who cling to vague terms like ritualistic symbolism. But it's undeniably symbolic narrative art. It speaks of a complex cosmology, a shared mythology, and a deep spiritual connection to their environment. This wasn't just decoration, it was communication, a visual language conveying stories, beliefs, or even a form of early writing that we simply haven't deciphered yet. This level of shared cultural meaning and its monumental expression suggests a cohesive society with a deeply ingrained belief system, far beyond what any primitive nomadic group could conceivably maintain. And then there are the astronomical alignments. This is where Göbekli Tepe transcends mere engineering and artistry and steps into the realm of advanced knowledge. Numerous researchers have pointed out that the layout of the circular enclosures, and specifically the orientation of certain T-pillars, appears to align with key celestial events. The solstices, equinoxes, and even specific asterisms like the Pleiades. The most compelling and controversial is the Vulture Stone, Pillar 43 in Enclosure D, which some interpret as a pictorial record of a cataclysmic cometary impact around 10,850 BCE, a global event known as the Younger Dryas impact. If this interpretation holds, it means the builders possessed not only precise astronomical observation skills, but also a system to record and transmit knowledge about cosmic events across generations. Why would primitive hunter-gatherers, supposedly driven by immediate survival, possess such sophisticated astronomical knowledge? This isn't about tracking seasons for hunting. It's about a deep theoretical understanding of the heavens. Such knowledge implies a concept of time, of cycles, and perhaps even a predictive capacity that far exceeds the accepted capabilities of early human societies. It suggests a scientific curiosity and intellectual pursuit that directly contradicts the survival-only dogma. This kind of celestial mapping is the hallmark of later fully fledged civilizations like the Egyptians or Mayans. Yet, here it is, thousands of years earlier, inscribed in stone by people we're told were barely out of the intellectual dark ages. The paradox is crushing for the conventional narrative. How could a society, supposedly lacking agriculture, sedentary living, or formal hierarchies, achieve such staggering feats of quarrying, transport, monumental construction, intricate carving, complex symbolism, in advanced astronomical observation? The standard response that communal effort alone was sufficient simply doesn't hold water against the sheer scale, precision, and sustained planning evident at Göbekli Tepe. This site demands specialized roles, a robust leadership structure, and a deep shared purpose that transcends mere survival. Göbekli Tepe is not an anomaly to be rationalized away. It is a direct, irrefutable challenge to the entire flawed dogma of human history. It proves that advanced engineering, profound artistry, and sophisticated cosmic understanding existed thousands of years before the official birth of civilization. It shatters the notion of linear progress and forces us to confront a terrifying, exhilarating truth, a level of human achievement that the textbooks refuse to acknowledge. The question is no longer if advanced cultures existed before our supposed dawn, but what happened to them? And the answers are far more unsettling than you could ever imagine. Now let's confront the last desperate gasp of the academic establishment. The attempt to dismiss Göbekli Tepe as an isolated anomaly, a singular, inexplicable burst of prehistoric genius that doesn't threaten the established timeline. This is where we deliver the final crushing blow. Because Göbekli Tepe isn't alone. It's part of a vast, interconnected network of monumental sites. The Taş Tepeler region, a sprawling testament to a sophisticated, coordinated culture that thrived across southeastern Turkey during the pre-pottery Neolithic, utterly obliterating the isolated fluke argument. The very notion that a singular group of nomadic hunter-gatherers, by some inexplicable stroke of luck or fleeting inspiration, managed to construct Göbekli Tepe is absurd enough. But what if we told you there are more such sites, just as ancient, just as complex, spread across a significant geographical area? This is the reality emerging from the ground in what is now known as the Tash Tepeler or Stone Hills Project. This initiative has brought to light a constellation of sites, all sharing striking similarities with Göbekli Tepe, creating an undeniable pattern of advanced pre-agricultural societal organization. Foremost among these is Karahan Tepe, located approximately 46 kilometers east of Göbekli Tepe. Recent excavations here have uncovered monumental T-shaped pillars startlingly similar to those at Göbekli Tepe, complete with intricate carvings and precisely engineered structures. But Karahan Tepe offers even more disturbing evidence for the mainstream narrative. A captivating, life-sized human statue, nearly 2.5 meters tall, seated on a bench carved from bedrock, its ribs and spine eerily prominent. This isn't abstract art, it's a powerful, realistic depiction of the human form, further shattering the primitive label and pointing to a profound artistic and possibly religious understanding that predates what academia previously deemed possible. The sheer scale and stylistic congruence with Göbekli Tepe at Karahan Tepe scream not of coincidence, but of a shared cultural tradition, a unified vision, and a coordinated effort across a vast landscape. But the network doesn't stop there. Sites like Nevaluchori, excavated earlier in the 1980s and 90s before being submerged by a dam, also revealed similar T-shaped pillars and ceremonial structures dating to a comparable period. Though now lost to the waters, its archaeological records further support the existence of this widespread cultural phenomenon. Then there are Hamzan Tepe and Sefer Tepe, smaller sites, yes, but equally significant. Their discoveries of similar megalithic elements and cultural markers reinforce the conclusion. Göbekli Tepe was not some solitary marvel. It was a flagship, a central hub within a much larger, more pervasive system of monumental construction and shared cultural practices. This isn't merely about finding more old stones. It's about proving coordination and shared knowledge across distances that would have been formidable for supposedly fragmented nomadic groups. A network of sites, each requiring immense labor, specialized skills, and a unified vision, cannot be explained by chance or isolated, spontaneous invention. It demands a level of communication, resource allocation, and hierarchical command that directly contradicts the hunter-gatherer model preached by conventional history. These were not random gatherings. These were planned endeavors, orchestrated by a highly organized society, or societies, with a shared purpose and an advanced understanding of engineering and social cohesion. The Tash Tepeler network fundamentally shifts the narrative from a singular miracle at Göbekli Tepe to a widespread, complex cultural phenomenon. It demonstrates that the builders of these sites possessed shared architectural blueprints. The consistent use of T-shaped pillars, circular enclosures, and specific carving styles across multiple locations points to a common design language and possibly a shared group of master builders or a centralized planning authority. Advanced resource management, coordinating the quarrying, transportation, and construction of multi-ton pillars at multiple distant sites, demands immense logistical skill and the ability to mobilize and sustain large workforces over extended periods. Unified symbolic and religious systems. The recurring iconography and apparent ritualistic nature of these sites indicate a cohesive belief system shared across the region, a spiritual framework that underpin their monumental endeavors. This is the very definition of a sophisticated culture, thousands of years before writing or agriculture supposedly made such complexity possible. The existence of the Tash Tepeler network makes it utterly impossible for mainstream archaeology to continue dismissing Göbekli Tepe as an isolated anomaly. It forces a terrifying conclusion. Not only did an advanced, complex society exist thousands of years before the official dawn of civilization, but it was widespread, networked, and capable of monumental engineering across an entire region. This isn't just an archaeological update, it's an undeniable, sprawling testament to a lost civilization that redefined the very limits of what ancient humans were capable of. The comfortable lies are now exposed. Now, if Göbekli Tepe didn't already smash your perception of ancient history, prepare for a site that doesn't just challenge the timeline, it annihilates it, pushing the very concept of ancient civilization back into a realm considered by mainstream academia to be utterly impossible. We're going to West Java, Indonesia, to the jungle-clad slopes of Gunung Padang, a site that has become archaeology's most incendiary battleground, threatening to redefine the origins of complex human structures on a global scale. This isn't merely controversial, it's a direct, undeniable affront to the established order, and its implications are nothing short of revolutionary. For decades, Gunung Padang was considered little more than a megalithic site of modest antiquity, a series of terraced stone structures from around 2,500 to 3,500 years ago, comfortably within the known timelines for Southeast Asian societies. A few scattered stone blocks, a minor tourist attraction, nothing to see here. That's what they wanted you to believe. But a team of intrepid researchers led by geologist Danny Hillman Nadawijaya refused to accept such a simplistic explanation. They deployed cutting-edge geophysical surveys, ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, electrical resistivity, tools that peer beneath the surface, revealing secrets the spade alone cannot. What these scans revealed wasn't just another megalithic site, it was an engineering masterpiece, a massive multi-layered structure of astonishing proportions, built directly into what was previously assumed to be a natural hill. Imagine finding out that an ordinary mountain in your backyard is, in fact, a colossal man-made pyramid. That's the scale of discovery at Gunung Padang. Researchers identified not just surface terraces, but distinct structural features hidden deep below, including large chambers, meticulously arranged stone walls, and further layers of construction. This wasn't natural erosion or random rockfall. This was deliberate, intelligent design and monumental construction, indicating a vast, coordinated effort far beyond any known culture of its supposed age. But the true bombshell, the one that sent shockwaves of outrage and denial through the archaeological establishment, came with the radiocarbon dating. While surface samples yielded the expected 2,500 to 3,500-year-old dates, samples taken from deeper layers, from material extracted from between the precisely placed columnar stones, began to return shockingly older results. Dates of 8,000 to 10,000 years old emerged. And then, the earth-shattering revelation, carbon samples from the very deepest layers, those associated with the bedrock and the earliest phases of construction, suggested an astonishing age of up to 20,000 years or more. Let that utterly sink into your mind. 20,000 years ago. If these dates are accurate and the geological evidence strongly supports multi-layered construction, Gunung Padang is not just older than the Egyptian pyramids, older than Stonehenge, older than Göbekli Tepe. It would be the oldest monumental structure on Earth, pushing the timeline of sophisticated human engineering and complex society back into the last ice age, into an era where conventional history insists humanity was nothing but scattered, simple hunter-gatherers. This isn't just rewriting history, it's ripping up the entire textbook and setting it ablaze. The academic backlash was swift, predictable, and ferocious. Mainstream archaeologists, threatened by the collapse of their cherished paradigm, launched a full-scale assault. They attacked the dating methods, claimed contamination, questioned the interpretation of the geophysical data. The narrative was simple. It can't be that old because humans weren't capable of building such things that long ago. It was a desperate attempt to defend a deeply flawed and incomplete understanding of the past, rather than embrace the revolutionary implications of the evidence. They would rather cling to a convenient lie than accept a disturbing truth. The debate culminated in 2023 with the publication of a groundbreaking paper claiming conclusive evidence for Gunung Padang as the world's oldest pyramid-like structure, explicitly citing dates over 20,000 years old. It ignited global headlines, sparking both excitement among truth seekers and furious condemnation from the old guard. And then, the calculated counterstrike. Less than a year later, the paper was retracted. The official reason? Questions raised by peer reviewers about methodology and interpretation. But understand this, a retraction doesn't negate the evidence. It merely silences the conversation in official channels. It's a strategic maneuver to control the narrative, to bury inconvenient truths under a pile of academic skepticism rather than address the profound implications head-on. The retraction of that paper doesn't magically make Gunung Padang younger or less significant. It underscores the immense, almost existential threat this site poses to conventional archaeology. The undisputed facts remain. Gunung Padang exhibits clear structural complexity, layered construction, and intriguing underground chambers. The only thing truly debated is the age, because if those deeper, older dates are confirmed, then the entire timeline of human civilization, our understanding of human capabilities, and the very concept of prehistory are utterly wrong. Gunung Padang stands as a colossal, silent sentinel, daring the academic world to confront the true antiquity and sophistication of human civilization. It's not just a mountain, it's a time capsule, a monument to a lost era of advanced builders whose achievements have been systematically erased. The resistance to its true age isn't about scientific rigor, it's about defending a comfortable lie. And we're here to expose that lie, proving that the earliest great civilization wasn't ours. It was theirs, shrouded in mystery and waiting to be fully unveiled. So, after confronting the crushing weight of this evidence, from the megalithic might of Göbekli Tepe and its sprawling Taş Tepeler network, to the earth-shattering antiquity of Gunung Padang, the drowned secrets of submerged cities, and the undeniable precision of impossible ancient engineering, it should be terrifyingly clear. The official narrative of human history isn't just flawed, it's a deliberate suppression. They want you to believe in a linear, predictable ascent, culminating in our perceived supremacy. But the truth screams from every ancient stone, we were not the first. We are merely the latest chapter in a far grander, more tragic, and more cyclical story. The real takeaway isn't just that history's incomplete, it's that vast, sophisticated civilizations rose, thrived, and then vanished, leaving behind only the most resilient, undeniable whispers of their existence. Their achievements, their engineering, their artistry, their cosmic knowledge were on par with, and in some cases, exceeded what we attribute to much later, civilized societies. The academic gatekeepers clinging to their outdated paradigms will continue to dismiss, to retract, to rationalize. But the evidence is here, undeniable, waiting for those brave enough to see it. This isn't just about what happened thousands of years ago, it's about our present and our future. If highly advanced civilizations could simply disappear, swallowed by time, cataclysm, and the relentless march of natural processes, what does that say about our fragility? Are we truly as unique, as unprecedented, as invincible as we're led to believe? Or are we merely repeating a cycle, oblivious to the profound lessons etched in the ruins of those who came before us? It's time to cast aside the comforting lies. It's time to demand a full, unvarnished accounting of humanity's past. Because until we truly understand the depths from which we emerged and the heights that others reached and lost, we cannot truly understand ourselves. The unfinished story of humanity isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a stark warning, a thrilling mystery, and the ultimate challenge to everything you thought you knew. The truth is out there, buried beneath layers of earth and dogma. It's time to dig.